Hi, my name's Melissa, and we're going to be doing some yoga today. I'm really glad that you could join me on your mat today. Our practice is going to be a gentle flow practice. We're going to need some props. We'll be using a chair and 2 blankets or towels, whatever you have handy at home. If we want to get started in standing pose, so our feet are going to be hip width distance apart or a little bit wider, kind of noticing how that feels in your body. And then we're just going to lift our toes off the floor and then release. Begin to tune in to your inhales and your exhales. And then maybe shift forward and backward, feeling the weight shifting on your feet as you tune into your breath. Eyes can remain open, maybe find a gentle gaze on the floor, allowing them to relax. And then we're going to incorporate some movement. So we're going to inhale, maybe our knees bend, reach up. Exhale as we press down. Let's do 2 more. Maybe your exhale comes out your mouth. Inhale through our nose, exhale out the mouth. And then bringing our hands down by our side, we're going to begin to do some gentle shoulder shrugs here. So bringing our shoulders up towards our ears, inhaling, exhale, release. Tuning into that breath. Let's do 2 more here. And then release our shoulders, take a breath here. And then we're going to sink that left ear to that left shoulder, opening up the right side of our neck. Inhale, our head comes back to center. Exhale, right ear, right shoulder. Noticing any tight spots. And then inhale, come back to center. And then we're going to sink our chin to our chest. So as we exhale, sinking our chin to our chest, opening up the back of our neck. And then with your chin, imagine you're drawing a line up towards the ceiling as your gaze goes to the sky. And then you're going to draw that line back down, chin comes to chest. Do this a couple times. Last one here. And then allowing your head to rise up. We're going to bring our hands out in front, and we're just going to make fists and then come open. So we're just going to open and shut our hands, having them go nice and wide. Keeping your awareness with your breath. And then we're going to wiggle the fingers, wiggling each finger. And then we're going to make fists with our hands and do some little wrist circles. And then let's reverse that wrist circle. And then we're just going to shake it out. Shake out our hands, maybe shake out our arms, shake out those legs. Take a few breaths here. We're going to bring our hands to our hips and do some little hip circles here. Tuning into our breath. One more, and then we're going to switch directions. So when you find yourself in the middle, switching that direction of that circle. Two more here. And then come back to center. Taking a moment here in standing pose, opening up the chest. Allowing our facial muscles to relax, allowing our jaw to relax, our shoulders. And then we're gonna take a couple more inhales here. So we're gonna inhale, lift up, reach. Exhale, release. 2 more times. Last one. Hi, welcome back. We're going to get started with our sun salutations. We're going to be using a chair, or if sun salutations are part of your practice already, please feel free to not use the chair. So we're going to come up to the top of our mat, grounding down into our feet, tuning into our breath, finding mountain pose, swiveling our hands so they're facing forward, sending our shoulders down our back. Taking some deep breaths. So imagine that your breath is traveling all the way down into your feet, allowing your facial muscles to relax, your jaw to release, having a gentle bend in your knees. And then on your next inhale, we're going to rise up, allowing our arms to reach up towards the ceiling. Maybe our gaze travels with our hands, or maybe it stays out to the front side of the room. And then on your next exhale, swan dive, coming into a forward fold. Hands are coming onto our chair or all the way down to the floor. We're going to stay here for a few rounds of breath. Allow your head and neck to release. Inhale, halfway lift, rise up, back is flat, gaze is down to your mat. Stepping back with that right foot, coming into high lunge. Staying here for a few breaths. And then bringing that left foot to meet the right. Sending our weight towards the back of our mat as we come into downward facing dog. We're going to hold here for a few rounds of breath. It might feel good to close your eyes, go inward, focus on your breath, focus on how your body's feeling. And then on your next inhale, we're going to come up, stepping forward with that right foot, finding high lunge. Letting ourselves breathe. And then left foot meets right. We're going to rise up as we reach towards the ceiling, maybe wiggling our fingers. We're going to find a side bend here. So taking that right hand, grabbing the outside of that left, we're going to open up the side body. Your gaze can be down towards the floor, or maybe it's up towards the ceiling. Inhale back to center, releasing that hand. And then left hand comes to right. Reaching over to the left. Inhale back to center, releasing that left hand. Exhale, swan dive, forward fold. Finding your forward fold. Releasing your upper body. Inhale, halfway lift. Back is flat, gaze is down. Stepping back with the left foot, finding high lunge. Finding our breath. And then let's bring that right foot to meet the left, shifting our weight towards the back of our mat. Knowing that you can have a nice gentle bend in those knees. Coming back up, bringing that left foot forward, high lunge. Right foot meets left, rising up. Exhale, swan dive, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Stepping back with that right foot, high lunge. Noticing how your body's feeling as we warm up. Left foot meets right. Shifting our weight back into downward facing dog. Coming back to center, bringing that right foot forward. Left foot meets right. We're gonna rise up. Exhale, hands come down by our sides, finding mountain pose, swiveling our palms forward. Sending our awareness into our feet. Maybe activating our core, allowing the natural curve in our back. And then bringing our hands to center. We're going to take a little break and we'll be right back to start our Warrior Flow series. Hi, welcome back. Before we get started with our Warrior series, we're just going to tap into our breath. So we're going to bring a hand onto our chest. Maybe our stance is a little bit wider than hip width distance apart. Maybe our eyes are closed or gently open, finding a nice gaze on the floor. And we're going to soften our facial muscles, soften our jaw. Feel the flow of our breath in our body. Feeling that movement. And then releasing that hand down. Doing one shoulder circle here. And then we're going to face our chair as we come into our Warrior Flow series. So we're going to inhale, reach and rise. Exhale, hands come down, finding our hips. Shifting our weight onto that right leg, sending that left foot back. Making sure our foot is a 45-degree angle, our toes are pointing towards the long side of our mat. We're pressing into that front leg. If you need a little bit more foundation here, you can always step that back foot out a little bit wider. This may allow you to feel a little bit more balance, a little bit more connection with the mat. Hands can stay here, or finding gold post arms. We're letting our breath find that rhythm. Feeling strong in our pose. And then on your next exhale, hands are gonna come on to our hips. We're gonna straighten that front leg, keeping a slight bend, lengthening up through the spine, pulling that belly button towards our back. And then we're gonna imagine there's a string pulling our chest towards the mat. So keeping our hands on to our hips. Also knowing that if that chair is there, you can also find this as a nice support. And this is pyramid pose. Taking a few rounds of breath here. And then we're going to press into that front leg, pulling in that belly button towards the back of our spine, bringing our hands to our hips, slowly lifting up, finding that warrior one. And then we're going to step that left foot to meet that right. Maybe lifting our toes up and down, maybe coming onto the balls of our feet. Releasing those hands down. We're going to reach and rise with our hands, lengthening through the spine. Exhale, bringing our hands to our hips. Shifting our weight onto that left foot, sending that right foot back, making sure our foot is at a 45-degree angle. Toes are pointing more towards the long side of our mat. Pressing into that front foot. Finding your hand position, so staying here or coming into gold post arms. Tuning in to your breath. Exhale, bringing your hands onto your hips, straightening that front leg, keeping a slight bend, lengthening here, keeping that back nice and flat, and then having that imaginary string pulling our front of our body towards the mat and stopping it where feels good in your body. So if you feel a stretch here, it's perfectly fine. This is your yoga practice. And then we're going to press into that front leg, activating that center, pulling that belly button towards the spine, and then coming up, finding that warrior one. Gold post arms or hands on our hips. And then exhale, hands come down by the side, and we're going to step that right foot to meet that left. We're going to inhale here as we reach up towards the ceiling. Exhale, bringing our hands down by our side. We're going to step our feet out a little bit wider. We're going to find mountain pose. So feeling nice and strong in this mountain pose. Swiveling our palms so they're facing forward. Allowing our shoulders to fall down our back. And then bringing our palms together, allowing them to rest at heart center. We're going to take a little twist here. So keeping our hands at heart center, we're going to bring this left shoulder towards the right side. So we want to keep our knees facing forward. This twist is happening in our upper body. Feeling the flow of our breath, noticing if we're holding our breath, and then exhale, release, come back to center. And then bringing that right shoulder to the left side, twisting in the upper body. Exhale, come back to center, releasing your hands down. Maybe do some nice little wrist circles here. Maybe shake the hands out, shake the arms out, shake your legs out. And we'll be back for some more yoga. Hi, thanks for coming back to yoga. Before we get started, we're going to find that breath again. So bringing our hands up to our chest, finding a nice gentle gaze on the floor. Maybe our feet are a little bit wider apart, feeling nice and balanced in this stance. Tuning into our breath, feeling the rising and falling of our chest. And then releasing that hand back down. We're going to get started with our sun salutations and warrior flow series. So coming up to the top of our mat, we're going to inhale, we're going to reach and rise. Exhale, hands coming down to our sides. Finding that mountain pose, swiveling palms forward. Feeling nice and strong in that mountain pose. Let's contract those front thighs. So contracting, kind of waking up those muscles and releasing. Bringing our shoulders up towards our ears, allowing them to come down and back as they come down our lower back, our upper back. And then inhale, rise up. Exhale, swan dive, coming into that forward fold. Knees can be nice and bent. Hips or feet can either be hip width distance apart or a little bit wider, noticing what feels better in your body. Allow your upper body to release and relax. On your next inhale, coming into that halfway lift, back is flat, gaze is down. And then we're going to step back with that right foot, coming into high lunge. Taking a few rounds of breath here. Step back with that left, shifting our weight towards the back of our mat, coming into downward facing dog. Shifting forward to center, reaching up with that right foot, coming into high lunge. Bringing that left foot to meet that right. We're going to rise up. Exhale, hands coming down. Bringing our hands onto our hips. We're going to find that warrior series on the right side. So we're going to step back with that right foot. Foot's at a 45-degree angle. Toes are pointing towards the long side of our mat. And finding that hand position that feels good to your body. We're opening up through the chest. Holding here for a few rounds of breath. Exhale, hands come to hips. We're going to straighten that front thigh, finding pyramid pose, pulling that belly button towards your spine. Feeling that imaginary string pulling at your chest. And then pressing into that front thigh, coming back into warrior one. And then we're going to sweep the arms up as our right foot meets our left. Exhale, hands down to our sides. Taking a breath here. Now we're going to find that on the opposite side. We're going to do our sun salutation. So inhale as you reach and rise up. Exhale, swan dive, coming into that forward fold. Allow that upper body to release towards your mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Stepping back with that left foot, finding high lunge. Holding here for a few rounds of breath. Notice if you're holding any tension in your face. And just allow that to soften. Right foot's meeting that left foot. And then we're going to send our weight back towards the back of our mat, coming into downward facing dog. And then float back to center. Left foot's going to step forward, holding here for a few rounds of breath in our high lunge. Right foot meets left, rise up. Exhale, hands coming down to our sides. Holding here for a breath. Bringing our hands onto our hips. We're going to find warrior one on the opposite side. So we're going to step that left foot back. Making sure toes are facing the long side of our mat. Press into that front leg. Finding your arms. Feeling strong in our warrior. On your next exhale, bringing our hands to our hips. We're going to straighten this front thigh, keeping a slight bend. Pulling that belly button into our spine. And then that imaginary string is pulling our chest towards the mat. In pyramid pose. We're going to activate that center, activate that belly, pressing into that front leg, slowly coming back up to warrior one. Finding those arms. And then we're going to sweep it up as that left foot meets our right. Exhale, hands come down. Standing here for a few rounds of breath. Notice how your body's feeling. And then we're going to inhale here. Find a little side bend. So we're going to bring that right arm onto our left forearm, reaching over to the right, opening up that left side. This is a nice and gentle stretch. Inhale back to center, release those hands. Left hand rests on your right forearm. Opening up the right side. Still keeping your awareness with your breath. Inhale back to center, release your hands down to your sides for a few rounds of breath. Thank you. We'll be right back. Hi, thanks for coming back. We're going to be playing with a little bit of balance here. So if you have your chair, you can either turn your chair around, making sure that it's on a non-slip surface, Also, you can also use a wall as well. So we're gonna come into a standing pose. Feet can be hip-width distance apart. Shoulders are kind of coming down our back, opening up through the front body. And then let's just start to rock back and forth, shifting our weight from the front of our feet to the back of our feet. This might activate the fronts of our thighs. And then we're gonna send our weight from side to side, kind of shifting that, feeling our weight distributing throughout our entire feet. And then coming back to center, finding a focal point or a drishti, so finding a non-moving object. And then bringing your hand onto your chair or a wall. We're gonna shift our weight onto that right foot. Begin to lift that left foot off the floor. And maybe you wanna stay here, and that's great. Or you wanna kind of play with that, releasing your hand off that chair support. And if you want to play with a little bit of movement here, you can just gently sway that foot forward and back, keeping a nice bend in that supportive leg. Having fun with this movement. You might want to lift your knee up, playing with that release. Keeping that focal point, and then release that left leg down. Putting your weight onto that left leg, shaking out that right. And then let's ground down into our feet, tuning into our breath. Finding that chair, shifting our weight onto that left leg. Knee is nice and bent here. Lifting that right foot off the floor. And this might feel really great today, and that's great. Listening to your body is so important because it allows you to keep showing up and not going beyond your practice. And then if you want to begin to incorporate some of that fun movement, if that feels good to you today, maybe your hand releases, or maybe it stays on the chair. And then bringing that knee up, releasing it down onto the mat. Ooh, shake out that left leg. We're gonna find a little bit wider stance here, bringing our hands onto our hips. We're just gonna sway from side to side, kind of shifting our weight from one hip to the other. Tuning into that breath. And let's do one hip circle. And then when you find yourself back in the center, we're gonna do one hip circle in the opposite direction. And then we're gonna make our way into tabletop. So coming down onto all fours. Before we do that, we're gonna move our chair around, maybe bringing it a little bit off our mat. And this is a great time if you want a little added cushion for your knees. This is where one of your blankets comes in nice and handy. Coming onto all fours, spreading our fingers out wide, making sure our wrists are below our shoulders and our hips are below, our knees are below our hips, excuse me. And we're just gonna play with a little bit of core work here. So we're gonna soften that belly and we're gonna allow that belly to sink towards the mat. Softening that belly, allowing it just to hang there. Feeling a nice curve in our lower back. And then we're gonna start to activate that center, pulling that belly button in, feeling that movement, that shift. So we're just gonna play with this a couple times and just notice the difference. Notice the feeling, releasing and softening through the belly. And then as you inhale, it is as though you're kind of zipping up your abdomen. And allowing your breath to move here. We're not holding, even though we're kind of contracting those abdominal muscles. We still want that breath to move throughout the body. And then releasing our belly and softening through the front of the body. And then feeling that zipping up, that movement. It's kind of like a curling or tucking motion. And then release. And we're going to relax here, kind of sway our hips from side to side. And then we're going to activate that kind of contracting again. So contract your belly. And we're going to find bird dog here. So we're going to allow that leg to reach out, keeping the top of our foot connected to the floor. And you might stay here. This might feel good today. Or playing with that, lifting the foot off the ground, not going higher than hip height. And then bringing that left knee in. Swaying your hips from side to side. Allow the belly to soften. And then let's try that on the opposite side. So kind of bringing the belly in as though you're being cinched in or kind of zipped up. And then extending that right leg out. Foot, top of the foot stays connected to the floor. And knowing that you can stay here or play with that lifting of the leg. Allow your breath to move. It allows you to find more strength, more movement in these more challenging poses. And then when you're ready, releasing that leg down onto the mat, bringing your right knee in. Let's sway from side to side. And then we're going to slowly walk our hands back to our feet, coming into half stance. And we were doing a little bit of wrist work, so we're going to make fists with our hands. Do some nice little wrist circles here. Allow ourselves to take some deeper breaths here. And then shake it out. And then we'll be right back for our cool down. Hi, welcome back. We're going to be sitting for this last piece. So if you want to find your blanket, I kind of rolled this up, allow myself to sit on it. It allows your hips to kind of come off the ground a little bit. And we're going to extend our legs out in front of us, making a V. We're going to inhale our hands up and exhale, hinging forward as we reach towards our feet. And you can always be here too, or allow your forearms to kind of rest on your thighs, but you want to make sure that your back is nice and flat, chest is open. We don't want to be curving into our the floor, and tuning into that breath. Softening through our face, allowing our jaw to relax. And then planting our hands down onto the floor, slowly walking our hands back up as we come up. We're going to bring our legs in together, coming into staff pose. So maybe we pull the flesh away from our seat bones. Inhale. Arms can stop about here, or you can rise up all the way to the ceiling. And then we're just going to hinge forward as our hands come towards our feet. feet or shins. Allowing your upper thighs to relax. Feeling this more in the back part of our legs. Let your head and neck relax and release. And then on your next inhale, slowly walking your hands back up. And then we're going to take the left leg and bring our ankle on the top of that right thigh. And hands are going to come out to the side, and we're just going to walk our hands out, stopping where you feel that stretch. And if you're feeling any pressure on this right leg, you can always bring that left arm underneath your ankle to release a little bit of that pressure. Back is flat here. And then lifting up, releasing that left leg, shaking those legs out. Let's bring in that right leg, right ankles on top of that left thigh, finding that cushion if you need it. And then bringing our hands to our sides, walking our hands out. And you might notice that one hip is a little bit tighter than the other, which is completely normal. Allow your shoulders to relax, your upper body to relax. We're stretching here through that hip muscle. Breathing here. And then slowly walking your hands back, releasing your feet down. And then I'm just gonna move, and I'm gonna remove the blanket that I have underneath my seat bones, and maybe I move it back here towards the back of my mat. And we're gonna play with a little bit of core work. So we're gonna, legs are bent, we're gonna grab the outsides of our shins here, and we're just gonna lengthen here, kind of like we're pulling in, lengthening up through our spine, pulling the belly button back. And then bringing our hands back behind our thighs, keeping that straightness in our back. And we're just gonna slowly come back, stopping at that point. Keeping that breath flowing through your body. And then coming back when you feel ready, pulling into the body. And then let's do that one more time. Hands come back behind our thighs. And then we're just slowly leaning back, stopping at your stopping point. Activating those core muscles. And then pulling it into the body. And then we're going to gently make our way onto our backs. So we're going to come onto our forearms, coming down, lowering down. And you might want to use that mat that you were sitting on as a nice little cushion for your head. We're going to tee those arms, bringing our feet in a little bit closer to the seat bones, stepping our feet out to the width of our mat. We're gonna find windshield wipers. So you're just gonna allow your knees to fall from one side to the other. Let's do one more here. And then we're going to meet back in center, walking our feet so they're hip width distance apart. We're going to bring our hands back behind our thighs. So we're going to bring that left leg into the body, bringing our hands back behind the thighs, interlacing those fingers, sending that leg up towards the ceiling. And if it feels good to pull that into the body, or it might feel good just to hold it there. Maybe you feel a stretch here. Let's find some movement in that ankle, pressing and flexing, pointing and flexing. And then releasing that leg down, bringing that knee into the body, and then planting that left foot down onto the mat. Let's bring that right leg in, squeeze it into the body, bringing the hands back behind, interlacing those fingers, extending that foot up towards the ceiling. We want to make sure that our shoulders still have that connection to the mat. And then if it felt good, pointing and flexing on this side. And then bringing that leg in towards the body, giving it a nice little squeeze here. And then releasing that right foot down onto the mat. Now we're going to come into Shavasana here. So I'm going to give you two choices. You can either completely come down onto your mat, or you can scoot on down towards your chair and allow your feet to be supported by the chair. And I'm going to bring that little cushion underneath my neck here. And I'm going to take a little roll here to support that curvature in my neck. Finding that comfortable spot. Hands can either rest by your sides or find your resting place on your belly. And we're just going to start to allow our body to sink down into the mat, letting softness come into our body, feeling a heaviness wash over ourselves. Eyes can be closed if that's comfortable to you, or have a nice gentle gaze up towards the ceiling. We want our face to soften, our jaw to relax. Tuning into our breath, allowing that to bring us down to the ground, finding that relax and release. I want you to begin to deepen your inhales and your exhales. Start to come back into this space. Find some movement in your toes and your fingers. And allow your head to rock from side to side. And then slowly, if you did choose the chair, slowly pushing the chair out of the way, allowing your knees to fall to one side. Sitting here for a moment to kind of orientate yourself. And then when you feel ready, gently pushing up, coming into a seated pose, bringing your hands to heart center. Thank yourself for showing up today, moving your body, and finding time to practice yoga. Namaste. Thank you.